Hey everyone, and welcome! Just a quick heads up before we get started. This is a pilot project, an experimental video that we've produced with AI, based on a real lesson. So, you might spot a minor error here or there. Thanks for your understanding while we try this new format out.
All right, let's do this. Today, we are going to build your very first real conversation in Italian, piece by piece. We're going to walk through all the essential phrases you need to meet someone, ask a few questions, and even share a little bit about yourself. Ready to jump in?
So here's the plan. We'll kick things off with those super important first questions. Then we'll get into a really crucial cultural point, the formal versus informal you. After that, we'll learn how to talk about your job and your age, figure out which little words to use for places, and finally, how to wrap up the conversation. By the end, you'll have everything you need. Okay, let's get right to it. When you meet somebody for the first time, there are a couple of questions that almost always pop up, right? So let's make sure we absolutely nail them. First things first, how to ask for someone's name. Now, this is really interesting because Italian thinks about this a little differently than English does. We ask what a name is, but in Italian, it's more about action. Come ti chiami? Let's say that nice and slow. Come ti chiami. It literally translates to, how do you call yourself? It's a small change in thinking, but it's the most natural way to ask. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, so you've got their name. What's next? Well, you'll probably want to know where they're from. This is another one of those core questions in any first meeting. For this, you'll ask, di dove sei? Let's break that down. Di dove simply means from where, and sei is the version of are that you use for you. So altogether, you're just asking, from where are you? Di dove sei. Simple, direct, and perfect. All right, let's pause here for a second because we need to talk about something that is super important in Italian culture. It's the idea of a formal and an informal you. Getting this right is a huge sign of respect. So you've got two main choices, tu and lei. Think of tu as your casual and formal you. You'll use it with friends, with family, anyone your age. That's the ti in come ti chiami. On the other hand, you have lei, which is your formal you. You use this with people you don't know, someone older, or in professional places like a shop or a bank. And look, the verb changes too. It becomes come si chiama. It's a small detail, but believe me, it makes a world of difference. Awesome! Now that we have the greetings down, we can go a little deeper. Let's get into how you can talk about some personal details, like what you do and how old you are. So after the initial hellos, a really common question is about what someone does for a living. How do we ask that in Italian? Che lavoro fai? Let's pull that apart. Che is what, lavoro means work, and fai is you do. So it's literally, what work do you do? Che lavoro fai? Okay, now for age. This is one of those classic things that trips up English speakers, so listen close. In English, we say, I am 20 years old. You are your age. But in Italian, you have your years. This is a huge deal. You don't use the verb to be, essere, nope. You have to use the verb to have, which is avere. And the question for it makes this perfectly clear. To ask someone's age, you say, quanti anni hai? This literally means, how many years do you have? See? It totally reinforces that idea that you possess your years. You don't just are them. All right, let's clear up another one of those little grammar things that can be a bit confusing at first, talking about where you live. It all comes down to picking the right tiny word, the preposition, to go before the name of the place. The good news is, the rule here is actually pretty simple. You use the word in when you're talking about big places, like countries or regions. So you'd say, vivo in Italia. I live in Italy. But for smaller places like cities and towns, you switch to a. For example, vivo a Milano. I live in Milan. So in for big places, a for cities. Got it? So you've had a wonderful conversation. You asked their name, where they're from, what they do. Now, how do you end it nicely? Well, Italian has a few great options for saying goodbye. Of course, there's ciao, which I'm sure you know. It's informal and it works for both hi and bye. For something a bit more formal, you have arrivederci. Then there's a presto, which is a really friendly way to say see you soon. And a personal favorite is buona giornata, which just means have a nice day. Now here's a pro tip. There's one word you need to be really careful with, addio. This is not your everyday goodbye. It's very final. It means you don't expect to ever see that person again. It's powerful, It's a bit dramatic, and it's almost never used in casual conversation. So definitely stick with the other options.
And just like that, you have all the essential pieces for your first real Italian conversation. You know how to start, how to ask questions, and how to say a graceful goodbye. So the only thing left to ask is, which one of these new phrases are you going to go out and use today? Grazie e a presto.